he can opt out of the contract. And considering how large a part Ohtani has played in the Dodgers franchise valuation growing to around 10 businesses in that ecosystem, Walter was flying home from British Columbia and FBI agents boarded his jet and took his cell phone and laptop. The Financial Times later reported that law enforcement did.
ドジャースのオーナー、マーク・ウォルター氏の金融不正疑惑は日増しに報道が大きくなっています。この件に関し、ジェフ・パッサンが金融専門家のトム・ゴーバーを招いて詳細の説明を行いました。この中で語られていることで衝撃的なのは、ウォルター氏の保険金流用事件はドジャース買収後すぐにもあり、その訴訟をゴーバー氏は当時追いかけていました。大谷の影響力についても語られています。一部を訳しましたのでご覧ください。
Sale of the Lakers to Joshua Kushner, who's the brother of the president's son-in-law, and Bob Iger, the longtime CEO of the Walt Disney Company, which owns ESPN, certainly would take a chunk out of the $20 billion plus that Walter needs. Except that Jeannie Buss, the daughter of longtime Lakers owner Dr. Jerry Buss, is contesting the sale, and should Buss not relent and take her case to litigation, it could significantly delay any sale. Walter, in the meantime, continues to chase cash. Bloomberg reported that in efforts to raise money, he even pursued a deal with Point72, the firm of New York Mets owner Steve Cohen. Point72 rejected the entreaties, even though Bloomberg reported Walter is offering double-digit returns with some of his Guggenheim equity staked as collateral. John Orand at Puck reported that Walter was willing to offer to Charter Communications, which bought Time Warner in 2016, an end to the Dodgers' absolute sweetheart TV deal in exchange for an undisclosed lump sum payment. And if Walter can't secure the money elsewhere, he could be forced to start selling assets. He insists that it will not be the Dodgers. Walter is telling that to friends. He's saying that through Dodgers president Stan Kasten, who twice in the last week has held press briefings in which he repeated the point: the Dodgers are not and will not be for sale. If you were Mark Walter's lawyer, Tom, what would be your biggest concern right now?
Well, interestingly, it goes back to 2014. When we filed that complaint 12 years ago, we alleged that insurance executives really should not misrepresent an entity as being non-affiliated when they're really affiliated. Today, it seems that's what the Department of Justice is concerned about. So it makes you wonder during that time, how much can we count on the financial statements coming out of that group? And it's just looking tricky. I don't know how else to describe it. It's going to get sticky. It always does in a criminal matter like this.
Well, if the Dodgers were sold, it would make for a fascinating outcome.
It would.
Ohtani's contract, which despite its size is widely regarded in the industry as the team-friendliest deal in baseball for all of the revenue he brings in compared to the paltry salary that he gets every year. That deal includes a key man clause, which means if Mark Walter or Andrew Friedman, the Dodgers president of baseball operations, leaves the team in the middle of Ohtani's deal, he can opt out of the contract. And considering how large a part Ohtani has played in the Dodgers franchise valuation growing to around $10 billion, how many of their deals are specifically tied to him? It's even more of a potential mess. But you know what? Getting here, the Dodgers and their owners have certainly laughed their way to the bank, because a $2.15 billion investment turning into $10 billion over 14 years, it's pretty good ROI, Tom, right?
Yeah, it's not bad, I have to say. I just wish it was for the policyholders.
Yeah, who does get those profits? Because we established at the beginning, more than half of the money used to buy the Dodgers, according to this complaint that was filed back in 2014, came from annuity policyholders.
That's right.
Do they get to enjoy the spoils as well?
I haven't seen any indication that they will, but also this is like a lot of the affiliated transactions. It often benefits the person in control, Mark Walter. It might benefit the person in control, but the policyholders, it's to their detriment. They don't understand all of these things or even going on, so they don't know to act on their own behalf.
A lot of us don't understand these things, and that's why we're trying to do this episode. And we're going to end back where this all began, with the purchase of the Dodgers, the creation of Guggenheim Baseball Management, and a prescient interview with Todd Boehly. Todd Boehly was the one who would eventually go on to structure the Dodgers TV deal. He still plays a vital role with the team, and he gave his first on-the-record interview as a Dodgers owner, December 15th, 2012, to Bill Shaken of the Los Angeles Times, who has written more about the Dodgers TV deal than anyone. In that interview, Todd Boehly said the following about Mark Walter. Quote, "At the end of the day, I think Mark is going to be one of the most enlightened owners in sports franchise history because of how thoughtful he is about how the pieces work together. Most importantly, he is not greedy. He's going to put the money in. He's going to make the investment on the field and in the park and in the facility and in the experience, because that's also what makes it worth the most money. So he is perfectly aligned with giving the fans the best experience, because that is what creates the most value." And after all this talk we've had, Tom, of value and investment and rates of return, Todd Boehly was asked how he would define successful ownership of the Dodgers. Quote, "You're not really asking me that, are you? The more World Series we win, the more valuable a franchise it is, right?" End quote. The Dodgers this year are trying to become the first National League team ever to win 3 straight World Series, Tom. They have the second best record and the second best run differential in baseball, behind only the team that they swept in the NLCS last year, the Milwaukee Brewers. The Dodgers are heavy favorites to win the World Series nonetheless. They are the focal point of Major League Baseball's argument in favor of a salary cap, which the MLB Players Association rejects and is expected to lead to a lockout December 1st that's going to last only God knows how long. And all of this is to suggest everything in the baseball world revolves around the Dodgers, Tom. Mm-hmm. And yet it's been more than a dozen years since you put together the case that they were bought with other people's money. In the meantime, the practice of affiliated investing, of putting the money of grandmothers and grandfathers everywhere into riskier positions, has only gotten worse. Who's to blame for this?
Boy, this is a tough answer, but I have to be candid. All of these things we've been talking about, all of the pitfalls of things that worry me most, really rest on the shoulders of the state regulators, the insurance commissioners. It's their job to protect the policyholders, not the carriers, the insurers themselves. They can take care of themselves. But we made a real fuss about affiliated investments need to be properly reported. And during that 12 years, it apparently just blossomed, not just within Mark Walter's group, but the entire private equity controlled ecosystem. The whole group of insurance companies controlled by them are doing lots of affiliated investing.
And we are left with the Los Angeles Dodgers in question, with the future unknown, and with so much more story left to be told. Tom Gober, thank you so much for your time, your insight, your expertise, and your effort on this matter. We'll see everyone next week.
Thank you.
Welcome to Sources Tell. Jeff Passan. I am Jeff Passan. And today's story starts in 2014, less than 2 years after a consortium led by a Chicago investor named Mark Walter finalized its $2.15 billion purchase of the Los Angeles Dodgers. Two women named Clarice Whitmore and Helga Maria Schulsky filed a federal class action lawsuit in Illinois against the company that Mark Walter owns and runs, Guggenheim. The 105-page complaint is a sprawling, thorough account that alleges that premiums paid by Whitmore and Schulsky for annuities were not put into the safe, low-risk investments typically associated with annuities and other life insurance products. And the complaint laid out a tangled web of financial transactions that alleged Mark Walter took premiums from insurance companies that he owned and funneled them directly into other businesses he owned, affiliated companies in the industry parlance. One of those, the complaint said, was the Los Angeles Dodgers. More than half of the money used to fund the team's purchase, the complaint alleged, came from annuity payments. Less than 24 hours after the complaint was filed, the lawsuit was dismissed, and while nobody involved has publicly addressed the case, here's the truth: a quick settlement was reached to make it go away. 12 years later, the same sort of story is unfolding in a far different manner.
With the Los Angeles Dodgers, and it's not a sugarcoating show where you just glaze the players for an hour. If Mark Walter left, Ohtani could leave. Now, Ohtani has already made it clear. He told Sam Blum of The Athletic that he wouldn't enact his key man clause. But until we see it in action, we have to kind of see it play out, right? So my hope is that no ownership group takes over and this doesn't change and that this team just remains the best team in baseball. But I think even if you don't think that there is a major concern here about Mark Walter specifically, I think this is a good opportunity to remind everyone out there, which this is not a secret, but all good things come to an end, right? And it makes you wonder, have we seen the peak? Have we seen the peak of Dodger baseball? Have we seen the peak of this run? I don't know that. I mean, they'd have won back-to-back titles and they could win a third. Maybe this year is the peak. And even without the Mark Walter question marks, that doesn't change the age of the roster and how the core of this team is on the decline, because that's just what the stats prove. So I think it's another reminder, we got to enjoy every game. We got to enjoy every run. We got to enjoy every World Series and not take it for granted and savor what has been the golden age of Dodger baseball, where the team has won the division 12 of the last 13 years and made 13 straight postseason appearances.
No longer is Mark Walter a relatively anonymous investor who took over the Dodgers and watched them win 3 World Series. He also bought the Los Angeles Lakers and the Los Angeles Sparks and a portion of the Chelsea Football Club. He started the Women's Professional Hockey League. He owns stakes in F1, IndyCar, and NASCAR teams. And that's just the sports portfolio. Walter is the CEO of Guggenheim Partners, a financial behemoth whose assets under management since his purchase of the Dodgers has nearly tripled to around $370 billion. Walter is also the CEO of TWG Global, a holding company for all of the sports assets, AI plays, and perhaps most important, insurance companies. Because right now, federal investigators are probing him over the use of insurance cash and whether Mark Walter intentionally misled regulators and skirted rules intended to keep investments safe and policyholders solvent. Between now and December 31st, Mark Walter needs to replace more than $20 billion in questionable insurance loans to his own businesses with money tied to unaffiliated companies. Already, Walter has agreed to sell the Lakers a $12.5 billion deal that would net him around $8 billion. He's in talks to divest his stake in Chelsea too, and TWG, the holding company he runs, has pledged to swap $6.5 billion in unaffiliated investments for the insurance company's affiliated ones. The entire financial industry right now is laser focused on Walter, not just because of the potential legal exposure, but questions about the future of the empire he has built. And the sports industry is likewise training its eyes on him, wondering if the thing that allowed him to buy the Dodgers, insurance money, will be ultimately what forces him to sell them too. At the intersection of the past and present is our guest today. Tom Gober is a forensic accountant and certified fraud examiner who runs Deep Dive Analytics, and over his career has worked with the FBI and U.S. Attorney's Office in their efforts to help root out financial corruption. Spring of 2025, a whistleblower complaint alleged questionable practices in how Guggenheim Investments booked revenue tied to its insurance companies. In September 2025, after this complaint had been lodged and after authorities began looking into Walter, Guggenheim, and all of the affiliated businesses in that ecosystem, Walter was flying home from British Columbia, and FBI agents boarded his jet and took his cell phone and laptop. The Financial Times later reported that law enforcement did the same with Nina DiLorenzo, the president of Guggenheim Investments. As somebody who has been...
Well, first of all, I have worked on criminal cases for about a dozen years, all involved in life and annuity and other types of insurance where wrongdoing was proven. People went to prison. We got money back for the policyholders. In this case, because there is a criminal case at one level and you also have the SEC involved, it'll probably take a while. I've seen it take 3 to 4 years, even longer, but I would think 3 to 4 years is a safe bet.
While the total number of these affiliated loans have been reported slightly lower elsewhere, closer to $21 billion in affiliated investments from these two companies, whatever the number is, that matters because that is the ultimate number that Mark Walter has been required to make whole by year's end. Whether it's 21 billion, 24 billion, the point is the insurers had wildly understated their affiliated investments. How does that happen, Tom? Could this just be an honest mistake?
I suppose there have been instances in history where it was a mistake, but I don't see how it could be here specific to the Guggenheim Group and Mark Walter because of that civil complaint we filed back in 2014. In that, we alleged and explained why it's crucial to tell the truth with respect to affiliated and non-affiliated. That was one of the primary thrusts of that complaint. So here we are 12 years later, and it seems the allegations are the same, as if rather than learning their lesson, they doubled down, maybe got better at hiding that they're affiliated.
Yeah, other teams could, and you can argue should, be more aggressive in their pursuit of a championship. That does not mean that any team can be just like the Dodgers. I have never said that. I never would say that because it's not true. I have said that other teams should try and emulate the Dodgers' desire to win, and that plenty have greater ability to do so than they choose to in reality, and I'll stand by that contention all day. Here's the thing, though. The Dodgers and the Mets are the only teams with gigantic financial enterprises backing their operations. Nick Nemeth, who runs the mispriced asset